Have you ever thought about how a creature's nature, its very essence, could actually be a blueprint for human symptoms? It's a pretty wild idea, right? Well, today, that's exactly what we're diving into. We're going to explore a really fascinating theory through a symptomatic analysis of what's known as the spider group. We'll look at the symbolic link between this eight-legged weaver and a very specific profile of human conditions. So let's get into it.
To really get our heads around this, our journey doesn't start in some modern laboratory. Nope, we're going way back to ancient mythology. You see, the story that gave spiders their scientific name, well, it also happens to set the entire stage for the creature's symbolic identity.
So the story goes, there was this mortal weaver named Arachne. She was so unbelievably good at her craft that she got bold enough to challenge the goddess Athena to a weaving contest. And get this, her work was so perfect that Athena, in a fit of rage, just ripped it to shreds. Utterly heartbroken, Arachne hanged herself, but the goddess took a strange kind of pity, transforming the rope into a cobweb and Arachne herself into the very first spider, forever bound to her art.
And here's where myth and modern science just click together. The zoological class that spiders belong to? It's called Arachna, named directly after Arachne. So, right from its very origin story, the spider's identity is all tangled up with these themes of incredible artistry, pride, transformation, and yeah, even a little bit of destructive genius.
Okay, so how in the world do we jump from a mythological weaver to a profile of medical symptoms? Let's get to the central idea, because this is where we see how that connection is actually made.
This is really the core question, isn't it? How can the unique characteristics of a spider, its behavior, its hunting methods, its whole vibe, how can that possibly be mirrored in a human patient? Well, the answer lies in a very specific theory.
And here it is. It's this conceptual bridge known as the doctrine of signature. Basically, the theory suggests that a creature's most obvious traits act like a signature, pointing directly to the kinds of symptoms it might correspond to in a patient. Let's look at 3 really clear examples of how this whole thing is applied to the spider.
First off, a spider's got 8 legs, and they're almost always moving, right? Well, this is seen as a direct mirror to a primary symptom in the patient profile, this overwhelming physical and mental restlessness, just a constant need to be in motion.
Second, the spider is an absolute master of deception. It traps its prey in this beautifully but cunningly woven web. This trait is thought to be mirrored on a mental level, corresponding to patients who are described as having cunning, mischievous, or sometimes even deceptive behaviors.
And this last parallel, this one is probably the most fascinating. To attract a mate, the male spider performs this intricate dance. According to the doctrine, this corresponds to a really peculiar symptom where patients feel a powerful urge to dance. And what's truly remarkable is that doing so is actually said to relieve their other complaints. Wild, right?
Okay, so with that foundation in place, let's drill down into the nitty-gritty, and we'll start with the mind. How does this restless, creative, and sometimes destructive spider nature show up as a set of mental and emotional symptoms?
Well, the mental picture here is one of serious volatility. It's this strange mix of what's called fox-like cunning and destructive tendencies, right alongside real wit and creativity. Moods can just swing wildly, from joyous singing one minute to sudden tears the next. And the source material points out that violence, hysteria, and even seeing things that aren't there can be really strong features.
Now, this inner turmoil, it doesn't just stay cooped up in the mind. Let's take a look at how it's believed to show up in the physical body.
And here we are again, back to this number. Those 8 legs, they symbolize the absolute core physical theme, constant and often involuntary motion. It's really the signature of this entire group.
So physically, the biggest thing is this profound restlessness. It can show up as something called chorea, which is constant muscle twitching, and an unsteady walk. There's also this extreme hypersensitivity, where a sound is described as so intense it feels like it penetrates the teeth. And another key feature is periodicity, which means symptoms come back again and again with almost clock-like regularity.
All right, let's pull all of this together into a kind of practical blueprint. What makes these symptoms better or worse? And, according to the source, in which clinical conditions are these remedies actually considered?
This chart basically gives us the operating instructions. Symptoms tend to get worse or aggravated by triggers like touch and noise, and often in damp weather or at night. On the flip side, they get better or ameliorated by being in the open air with warmth and, as we saw before, pretty uniquely by music and dancing.
So, based on this entire profile, both the mental and the physical symptoms we just talked about, the source material suggests that remedies from the spider group are considered for a whole range of clinical conditions. This includes things like the involuntary movements of chorea, certain types of fevers, hysteria, and even epilepsy.
And that really brings us to our final thought. We've gone all the way from ancient myth to Materia Medica, exploring this idea that a creature's fundamental nature could be a signature for human ailments. It leaves us with a pretty provocative question to chew on. Can a creature's essence truly, really mirror the incredible complexities of a human condition?